Lisa here, back with another video. I've recorded this twice before because I'm doing such a bad breakdown, essentially. But today I wanted to review two kind of reading apps. I've been getting back into reading a lot more recently. I think the past week I've read like 3-4 books. I'm in my 4th book right now. Yes. And I wanted to just review some of the books that I've read. So today we're going to be talking about one of the new reading apps called ReAdict. I think it's like ReAdict. I get it. ReAdict. And I chose to read the most popular / most heavily advertised books on their app because I feel like that's a good gauge. If like this is what you're advertising consistently to everyone, maybe it's the best on your platform. I don't know. Why is it so heavily advertised? On every commercial I get, I always see these books and I'm like, okay. And I took the bait. After like 3 months, I took the bait and I downloaded them and I read these 2 books. But first I want to kind of talk about the structure of these apps because they're very different, even though they have the similar premise of like reading apps, and like they're both very similar to me in similarities to Wattpad, except like Wattpad was completely free, no ads, no nothing. Now it's different. There are ads now. That's anyway. I used to write on Wattpad years ago, 10 years ago to be specific. I have like really popular books on there when I was younger. It was a whole thing. People still comment on those books too, being like, finish the book, blah, blah, blah. I don't like the book. And I was like, I was 13. Why are you commenting 10 years later? And I still get the Wattpad notifications for it in my emails. And I'm like, please stop. Please stop doing that. But I also don't want to delete the page because it's like, it was like a whole like era of my life. But anyway, back to these two. Let's first describe like ReAdict. So ReAdict, I would say the interface is very similar to Wattpad, and for me at least. There's the different sections of genres you can read. I would say their genres aren't as dramatic and extensive as Wattpad, because Wattpad really let us create any genre that we wanted to create ever, even if it never existed before. Whereas these are like more traditional, like romance, werewolf, vampire, you know the gist, exactly. And ReAdict, they do a ad-based structure on their app. So basically between every chapter you have to do a 30-second ad, and I hope that 30-second ad helps not only the app stay afloat but also some of the writers for the app, because like the least you can do, but the least you can do. But basically I chose to read the most popular book, most heavily advertised book to myself, which was His Broken Luna. His Broken Luna is basically about a girl named Sophia who was basically given up by her parents. So she's an alpha wolf family, but her parents gave her up to another pack to be their slave, because essentially this is like, they don't tell us this until like 2/3 of the book, but basically what happens is there are 2 sons of the pack that she was given to as a slave, and one of them died when visiting their pack, and they didn't know why, and they just kind of blamed her and sent her away. And so she is the scapegoat of the whole situation, and so she's basically taken to his pack as a slave. She can't claim her alpha wolfness, and people make fun of her, and I'm still like, but she's still a powerful wolf though. And she's very, very much like every typical werewolf book. She's very heavily abused by the alpha, and everyone kind of like makes fun of her in the pack. She has 2 friends, because we always need 2 friends. This is very much structures of how I wrote my Wattpad books too. So these critiques are also critiques towards myself. Like, I'm not critiquing these authors in a way that's like, I've also done it. Like, hands up, like I've also done it in my books. I just want to make that clear. But essentially, she's being abused by the alpha a lot, and he's like, oh, on your 23rd birthday, if you don't find your mate, then you're gonna be my mate. And that's like her whole thing. And so everyone suddenly is talking about a pack that's gonna be visiting the most powerful pack ever, traditional werewolf, and Alexander is the abusive alpha. His plan was to essentially lock her up when the pack was visiting, so that way she wouldn't have the potential of running into her mate while the visiting pack was there. That doesn't fully happen. Are we surprised? Not really. So what ends up happening is, in midst of him abusing her, she like rips like a button from his shirt, and he's supposed to be like super, I hate saying it, like OCD, super cleanly, and like him having one button ripped off his shirt like completely makes him more abusive and more angry. And she's like, I'll fix it, I'll fix it, I'll fix it. And he's like 5 minutes to run basically across the entire house. Visiting pack is there to go get the sewing kit to sew back the singular button. And in the midst of her running across the entire house to go get the sewing kit, she runs into her mate. The whole like mate thing happens, the sparks, the oh my gosh, most attractive person I've ever seen in my life situation. And essentially she's like, don't like forget me, forget about me, blah blah blah, even though she wants her mate because she wants to escape the abusive pack. But we sure sis, whatever. And he was like, I can't marry you, I can't mate with you anyway, because like I made a promise to marry someone else. And then she's upset, and I'm like, but you also told him not to help you, so what do you want? What do you want? And then basically Alexander calls her from down the hall. She runs down the hall, and he smells another wolf on her, obviously, because she bumped into this whole man, which how did you not see this man down the hallway? And basically begins to abuse her and is like, did you meet your mate? Like, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. Because he, as possessive and abusive as he is, he loves her. Sure. And basically he starts abusing her, being like, tell me the truth. And then her mate, his name is Callan. Welcome to the story, Callan. He comes in, he's like, what are you doing? And the guy, Alexander, is like, this is just pack business. Sure. And then Callan's like, let go of my mate, even though he doesn't want to claim her, even though she is like saying verbally, like, I want to stay in this abusive household relationship, potentially die. But anyway, then this leads to this whole confrontation of Alexander being like, well, she's still mine, and Callan is upset, but Callan still walks away. Like, he takes her out of the situation, and introducing Alexander's sister, who finds him attractive, wants to be his mate. He's not your mate. Girl, he's not your mate. It's fine. So she comes in, she's like, what's going on? And blah, 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 blah. And like, Alexander's like, don't you dare walk away from me because I will abuse you more. And she, in a moment of like clarity, I would say, she lets Callan take her out of the situation. And then they get down the hall. It's always down the hall in this book. They get down the hall, and then she goes, no, I can't, blah, blah, blah. You don't even want me because you're engaged to someone else, blah, blah, blah. And then she goes back to Alexander. And like, instead of Alexander abusing her, he chooses to abuse her friend, who is like supposed to be like a guard or something, but they also portray him as like dumb and weak, and I'm like, how is he a guard if he's dumb and weak? I don't understand. And he basically abuses him. His name is Dimitri, I would say. And plot twist, Dimitri is a double backstabbing friend, and is a reporter to her original pack. So she's like telling the secret character that I will later talk about, essentially like, oh, you know, like, this is what's going on. She just found her mate, but she rejected him, he rejected her, so it's gonna be fine. Your plan's going great, like, blah blah blah. She's gonna stay with this abusive man, essentially. And the man's like, you better make sure of that, or you and your family. Cuts off his finger. Sure. And that's like the introduction to Dimitri. He gets like 3 chapters, and then he dies in the book. But like, you know, introduces him as like a weak but backstabbing friend protector thing. And she has another friend named Leah, and Leah's like, you should go with the person who is your mate. And even though he doesn't want to be with you because he's going to marry someone else. And my thoughts were like, okay, you go with him, you won't be abused anymore by Alexander. It's great. Dimitri's probably gonna die because that's his whole part in the book. If he helps her, he dies. If he doesn't help her, he dies. Like, that's his whole arc. Like, he had no good wins So at least choose to be a good friend. Also, they never say if his family dies, and that was like one of the plot points of like, if you let her go, your family's gonna die. But then he died, and then they never said if his family died, and I was like, did they die? Okay, we're gonna say they died. Got it. But essentially, Callan makes a deal with Sophia, being like, I can't be with you because I was promised to marry someone else, blah, blah, blah. But you should come with me because it's safer for you and like we get to at least be close to each other. And I was like, this sounds mistressy. This sounds mistress vibes. But at first she says no consistently, and then they kiss or something. No, they don't kiss. No, they don't kiss yet. But basically, she has so many encounters with him that every time Alexander sees her and he smells her, like him on her, he abuses her more. And then one night, she like again defied him, and he had a guard basically come to her room, bring her to him far away from the pack house. Alexander, not her mate, abusive guy. And he was going to basically to make sure that basically like claiming her, because that's how wolves claim each other in werewolf books. If you've read werewolf books, you know the typical, yeah. And in doing that, she tried to fight to save her life. Thank you for that. And in fighting to save herself, she thinks that she kills him, but she actually just like knocks him out. Like she just knocks him out. But for her, because again he's lying on the ground unmoving, she thinks he's dead. He's not dead. He's just like passed out. And she runs to her mate and she was like, we need to go. Like oh my god, I killed this. And he was like, okay, we're gonna figure it out. And so he decides, and he goes and he checks on Alexander, and like he tells his pack, hurry up, pack up, we're leaving tonight. And his beta hate this man. This man is ugh. He doesn't like her because he's like, you're power hungry, you just want to use him, blah blah blah. Girl is a slave. Girl doesn't know what you're talking about. She just wants to get out of this abusive situation, sir. And it just kept pissing me off. Oh my god. But that was like his whole thing. And yes, he is a villain. Shock. Oh my gosh, who would have thought? I hate myself. Basically, then she and Callan escape before Alexander wakes up, and then the rest of this pack is like gonna try to get as close to it as possible without, you know, getting trapped at Alexander's pack, which would be unfortunate. But also, you're the most powerful pack ever, cute pack. But you know, humanity. And essentially on their way to escape, she and Callan get attacked by rogues. So shocked. We're so shocked. And they decide, and basically Callan was like, run, and pushes her down a hill. Sure. And is fighting the other rogues, and at first he's winning, you know, he's an alpha, he's strong, he's all these things, but later on he starts losing, and that makes her wolf angry. She shifts into her wolf, she helps fight, she passes out for days apparently, and when she wakes up, she's at Callan's pack. Everything is not great. When she wakes up, she meets Callan's fiance, who is unshockingly I didn't say that. And essentially she's like, stay away from my man, he's betrothed to me, blah blah blah. And she was like, of course, yeah, whatever, I'll stay away from your man, got it, thanks, cool, I just want to live. Fair. And Callan, basically, he also stays away from her because his wolf is in love with her wolf. That's a whole thing. And one day he just magically decides to show up, even though he knows they shouldn't be close to each other because your wolves love each other, because that's the whole mate thing. And she was like, she says come in, he comes in, they have this whole conversation, and then they almost kiss, and he was like, you have to let me leave, like don't let me kiss you, because then I have to follow my heart instead of my duty as alpha who made a deal to marry this girl because I wanted to be the strongest pack ever. Cool, love that for you, sir. So she does, he leaves, and the next day gets to meet his family, and when she meets his family, his stepmom, his dad is dead, his mom is dead, but his stepmom, side eye to your father. Basically, the stepmother and his stepsister, half sister, and his fiance are there, and his beta who hates her. So, you know, a table of people that hate you, and then two people you've never met. They're there, they meet her. Stepmother's super nice. Don't trust that. Sister is sketchy. Also don't trust her. And basically they meet, blah, blah, blah. He and her keep staring at each other, and they ask her, do you want to stay here with us? Weird family function, weird dysfunctional family, or do you want to like go somewhere else? Like, do you want a separate house, whatever. And Callan's fiance is like, she should live somewhere else, she should not live here, which, marking your territory, I get it, but also he's not your mate. And then she basically goes through this flow of like, should I not? And then she goes, no, I'm not gonna let this girl intimidate me. I'm gonna stay at the palace. I was like, well, not the palace, the manor, the house. And I was like, sure. That's one way to not let her intimidate you. But basically, after she makes that decision, one of the servant girls invites her to go out. And I was like, sis, these people don't know you like that. If they're inviting you out, it's not for your best intention. But she was like, but they were so nice to invite me out. It's giving social anxiety. That's me. I get it. I would be the same. And she goes out with them, and then she gets there, and they went to a brothel, and they told her they were going to a brothel, first and foremost. And she was like, I've never been. Sure. And she gets there, and she was like, this isn't good. I should leave. But then she goes, but they invited me. And I was like, it's a brothel. Just leave. No, she doesn't do that. She stays. And she gets very much drugged by said people that brought her. We're shocked. We're so shocked. And essentially, they set it up so that this man would, I think the original goal was that he was supposed to tell her, but he was like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. I don't trust the situation. So what he did is he undressed her. Still, sir, just because you didn't fully commit did not mean you did not. Okay. And basically gets into bed with her naked as well. Again, side eye these people. And then magically, he's like feeling restless, Callan, her mate. So he goes to check on her, and suddenly his fiance's there, and she's like, she's not in there. She's a villain. She went to the brothel, blah, blah, blah. Someone confessed to me. Confess to you? Really? We're gonna go with that? Sure. Why am I doing this? And basically, the servant that took her out said, yeah, she's there, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, take me to her. He's pissed. He goes, and she's laying there because she's drugged in the bed, and she like doesn't wake up because she's drugged. And the guy wakes up. They send the guy to the dungeons. He's gonna die. Sir, you should have known you were gonna die. Like, you took the alpha's mate, sir. Anyway, takes him to the dungeon. He's gonna die. Peace. They try questioning him. He was like, this is what I did. I just undressed her. I drugged her, but we didn't do anything. I was just told to lay next to her. And I was like, you did multiple steps in this equation. You're still at fault. I don't understand. Executed immediately. Shock. And then they take the servant. She's also chained up because, girly, your involvement. And then basically they find out that there was wolfsbane, and wolfsbane can. This is the ticker. This was the kicker for me. Only 4 people have access to the wolfsbane. Him, his fiance, his beta, his stepsister, half sister, and his stepmother. And I was like, all sus. all of these people in which are sus had access to this. Great. Basically, the doctor saves her. He is pissed because he thinks it was his fiance. She is involved. I'm not going to say she's not involved because she is one of the villains. Shocker. Everyone, the spoiler has occurred. All of the people that are meant to be on his side, his stepmother, his half-sister, his fiance, his best friend Beta, they all are the villains. Which killed me. It was like, wow, you have no sense of like, no sense around you of who's good and who's bad. But essentially he blames the fiance. Fair. Honestly, yeah. He's like, you're not the person I thought you were. And I'm like, she didn't want you. She wanted to be the queen. She wanted to be the Luna. She didn't care. And basically, he basically does this whole thing. They have this back and forth, and he's like, I'm gonna choose my mate. I'm gonna meet the council. I'm gonna break this engagement. You and your father can go to hell. Summary, great. And then his best friend, who he also still doesn't suspect, which is sure, is still plotting against the girl because he's like, she is a social climbing blah 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 blah, because he doesn't believe that a girl who was in an abusive household just wanted to just get out of the abusive household. So basically, he's still against her, whatever, and he's making his own plans. I'll tell you about them in a second. And when she wakes up, essentially, when Sophia wakes up, Callan tells her all these things and blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm going to write to your father and tell him that, like, you know, I'm your mate and I want to be with you and blah, 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 blah. And I took you away from Alexander. Exposition. Hate myself. And then that leads to basically him going through with those steps actually, and she's very happy because like, oh my gosh, I got to be with my mate. Beta guy's still upset. What's his name again? I don't remember. Honestly, I don't care. Beta. This is gross. He is like 10-ish years older than everyone apparently, and he was having a secret affair with the younger sister of this man, Callan, and Callan didn't even know. Under your household, under your roof, your sister and your best friend. No. Shady people. And essentially Sophia catches the Beta with the sister. The sister's name is Grace. I don't know why I remember her name. Catches Grace in a compromising position with this man, and then they realize that Grace probably drugged them. Oh yeah, the servant girl died due to poison given to her by Grace, and they thought that the poison given to Grace to give to the servant was by the fiance, but it was actually by... But now they think it's actually by the Beta guy. Spoiler, it was by the mother. Dun dun dun. Why am I doing my own sound effects? But essentially, she goes off on Sophia being like, this is all your fault, you're ruining the plan, every blah blah blah. And Sophia, every time she talks to this girl just hates her. This girl's just like, I hate you, you're the worst, you should die, like all these things. But then Sophia's response is always like, they're using her and she doesn't know that they're using her. And I'm like, no, she doesn't like you. She doesn't like you. And you're so clouded by being like, oh, because she's young, maybe she's like being used. No, she doesn't like you. That's it. That was it. The whole book, I was like, girl, this girl didn't like you. I don't understand. But essentially, she goes to tell the mate, like Callan, hey, I think this is happening, but because the sister is a snake, this whole group is a snake, the sister already confessed to Callan to doing some of the things, and so Callan doesn't believe Sophia when Sophia says your best friend is sleeping with your sister. Sure. But then in the moment she sees like a letter from her family, and the letter is basically saying like her family's like, go back to this abusive man to fulfill our treaty. And she's like, oh my gosh, my family still hates me. Do you not know what forgeries exist? Me? Okay, just me. Got it. And so essentially she's upset, she's heartbroken. But Callan's like, don't worry, I'm gonna write to him again, we'll figure it out, blah blah blah. Exposition. And then this is when we find out Dimitri died. Backstabbing bestie. Bye. And essentially, then we get more exposition. We find out that the villain of all the villains, because everyone's a villain, is actually her uncle, Silas or whatever. He's just like a pack warrior. He's not even beta. That's sad. That's sad. Your brother couldn't even make you a higher rank. Sad. He's the villain of all villains because he wants to be the alpha of all alphas, the most powerful. And his plan is basically Alexander's brother. He framed a 7-year-old and people believed him for framing the 7-year-old. And he's the one who was like, you know what we should do to solve this problem? We should give your 7-year-old daughter to this man's family who thinks another 7-year-old. Sure. What? And then basically that's like, so his plan is like, so Alexander and her marry because Alexander was the weaker brother, so it's easier to Alexander take over Alexander's pack, kill his brother, take over his brother's pack, therefore defeat the most powerful alpha's pack, become the most powerful alpha in the world. That was his whole plan. Dumb. Also, like, 13 years of your life and this was the plan? Bro, no. But essentially, again, there's this rule that if she's not with her mate / mated by the time she's 23, then Alexander gets the claim on her. And remember, Alexander, he's just angrily bustling in the back because, you know, again, this tiny little girl that you've abused for 13 years knocked you out. Good. And so he's angry, but he's embarrassed. Oh my god, I hate myself. I'm sorry. And essentially, he goes to, I don't know why I'm summarizing this book. I've been summarizing this book for like 20 minutes. Essentially, the uncle's there because he wants to take her back to Alexander to fulfill his plan, but not tell anyone that that's his plan. Callan's like, no, we're gonna be mated by her 23rd birthday. And he chose the most inconvenient time. He chose like the day before her 23rd birthday. Sir, you're cutting it real too close to do this. But essentially they get attacked during the planning of this, and they find out that the beta is a villain, thank God. And so Callan leaves the day before the mating. I hate this man. To go to his enemy pack, which is like the Night Wolf, Night something, Night Shades, something with night. To strike up a deal, and then basically his beta, who is now a traitor, essentially, was attacked by rogues because he was dumb in his plan, because his plan was basically he was going to try to go talk to this enemy pack to be on his side, got attacked. So Callan went, got the enemy team on his side, and then when the beta guy woke up, the beta guy wanted to like spill all the secrets and be like, Grace is evil, the stepmom is evil, blah blah blah, but Grace had Sophia's uncle Silas, villain guy, overarching villain, get him killed. And since he couldn't expose the other plan, the other plotters of the equation, and Callan's like, oh my god, blah blah blah. And so he's like, all right, we need a new plan. So then he concocts a plan with the Night Wolf pack, his enemy pack, essentially, and doesn't tell her because it's for her protection. And in going through this, the fiance challenges, while he's gone making the plan with the Night Wolf, Nightwing, Night whatever pack, she challenges Sophia to like a battle of the death or whatever, and being like, because she wants Callan still, she doesn't, but she wants the power. So essentially they fight. She wins, but she doesn't kill the dumb girl. You always, because that's the only way these books work. So you have a happy life after. And in the midst of the fight, the uncle disappears. Whatever. She heals. So Sophia like feels bad for hurting the other girl. Tries to talk to the stepsister again. Stepsister's like, I hate you. Leave me alone. And she goes, she's being like manipulated. No, she doesn't like you. Oh my god. Can you tell that it just annoys me so much how she is with this girl? And essentially, exposition. We finally get to Callan coming back the day of the mating, cutting it real close, my guy. And he is injured because he was attacked by Silas's men who were dressed as rogues, but he could tell they weren't rogues because they knew how to fight. But he's like, I can't go to sleep. I have to endure the pain while I'm healing because I don't want to sleep through the mating and like, this whole thing crumbles. Well, the mating process is about to start. There's apparently like a ceremony, and amidst the ceremony, the guy doing the ceremony is murdered. Battle ensues. Her sisters are there, by the way. She has like 6 sisters that she dreams about regularly because she misses them. And 2 of them are there. And they are fighting to protect her and him. And he's like, you need to go to so-and-so pack. And like, they send her away for her own protection. She doesn't like that they sent her away, whatever. And then when she gets there, she meets her uncle's supposed dead wife / mate. And when she does, she essentially is like, your uncle pretended that I was dead because I saw him kill Xander's older brother, who was called Emmett, by the way, and frame it on you. So he sent me. So he had to pretend that I was murdered, so that way he could like fulfill his plan. And the only reason that I'm still alive and here is because he's using my daughter, our daughter, as leverage, Lydia. I remember some names and not others. And essentially, she tells this girl this, okay? She tells Sophia this, but she's like, but we need to get back to your pack, to where your family is, so we can warn them. Not sus at all to Sophia, at all. No alarm bells ringing, nothing ringing up here. And she goes, okay, and she makes a deal with like the enemy alpha, to basically like help, like take your men with me so we can go save my family. Sure. They get back to her family. I'm like digging my nails into my finger. They get back to her family, and when they get back to her she sees that her father is basically like a shell of a human, because obviously he lost his daughter when she was 7. He's a shell of a person, shell of a man, doesn't talk, doesn't do anything. He just slouches in his chair all day. And basically she tells her family, we need to go, we need to hide. And I'm like, but doesn't he know all the hiding spots because he lived there for 13 years and is a commander, and nothing's ringing. Nothing is ringing. But essentially, in the situation, she ends up basically taking her family to the hiding place. The hiding place, guess who's waiting for her? Her uncle and Alexander. And you know what day it is? Her 23rd birthday. I hate these people. I'm gonna end up making this video a 2-parter. This video is just about the ReAdict and the book. Essentially, Alexander is like, this is our time. He abuses her more. Her sister tries to save her. Oh, I forgot an interesting point. When she was fleeing, one of her older sisters, by the fiance the fiance's family. So let me do the spoiler now. Basically, the stepmother is the sister of the fiance's mother that was murdered by Callan's father. So basically, Callan's father was sadistic, and he wanted to take over the fiance's pack. So the alpha's wife made the alpha be part of his council and was like, my son will marry your daughter when they come of age, as like his deal, their pack and family. Cool. And then his wife, this is before the wife died. The wife gets pregnant by Callan's father with Grace, essentially. And so the fiance's father, this is threads. The fiance's father sends her away and basically she has birth to Callan's father's child, Grace, and dies at childbirth. In the situation, the mom had a sister who is Ilsa, who marries Callan's father, has a baby with him, Grace. And I don't know how she faked that pregnancy. I don't even know. And essentially, their family wants to basically they wanted the fiance to marry Callan so that way they could Callan, and then the females of the family that were wronged by this man would now be the ones in power. That was their plan. And so basically, while Sophia was fleeing, her two sisters were there, remember, and one of them was killed. Because why not? And she basically died in place of Callan, stepping in front of the wolf's bane covered sword, and was like, I hope you accept this as my apology. And I'm like, she didn't want you to die as an apology, but okay. And she, the sister that died, was the next alpha of her father's pack. Because why not? Anyway, back to the present. We're going through all of this, and essentially the uncle reveals that the sister is dead. The mom and other sisters get pissed and want to fight him. The dad is murdered by him because, again, the dad is a shell of a person. Like, he's not even there. It's like eyes glazed. He's just a body. He's nothing in here. Body, no thoughts? I don't know. And that makes the mom even more upset, so they fight him. But then Alexander's still there, so Alexander's like, no, and tries to drag him back, and essentially is going to try again. Sophia, thank you, Alexander. Thank you. And in his attempt, basically, she finally, because, gotta have our strong woman arc. I think Callan eventually shows up. No, Callan finds her, he shows up or something. And then the next chapter, this pissed off the readers, and it pissed me off too. They didn't flesh out the rest of the book. They just did they just made the next chapter the last chapter, being like, now we're together, now we're fully mated. We have no idea what happened to your best friend Leah, but we know that Dimitri is dead. Your sister is going to go to your uncle because he escaped, and happily ever after. And I was like, what? No, there's so many unanswered questions in that, so many unanswered questions. Oh, and he also the ex-fiance, and then Grace, they let her go because she's like, I feel bad for everything I've done, I'm gonna go be a rogue. And they're like, okay. And I was like, stupid. And then the next chapter basically is establishing a plot for the second book, which I haven't read yet. If you want me to read it and do this kind of summary thing again for it, let me know. But essentially it ends with the sister who is now in line to become alpha, the second oldest, her name is Natalie, going after the uncle, and that's the end of the book. And then it's like, next chapter is the second book, and everyone's like, And it's in perspective of her, like her sister Natalie, who's now the alpha of her dad's pack and having to like restructure everything. And of course, guess what? She is a female single leader, and the plot is her finding a mate. And that is his Broken Luna. Thoughts. What are our thoughts, group? My thoughts were, read like a traditional werewolf book, probably would have done amazing during the Wattpad era. I liked it for the most part. Again, it was just like every werewolf book I've ever read. I think Sophia was gullible sometimes. I think she had Stockholm syndrome, and yeah. Alexander, something wasn't right. Something was not right with this man. He was giving very much serial killer. He was giving very much, I'm not gonna say my other thought, but if you live in the US, I think you know where I'm going with that. And then Callan, I don't know, you were there. You became a good guy. Good for you. You were never a bad guy, but you were like not weak physically, but like weak in terms of like being like, I have to marry this girl because my dad, who's dead, said I had to. Duty over love, duty over your heart, duty over, I don't know, living people. Anyway, yeah, I think the last two chapters were just, the author was tired. People were being like, probably being like annoying, being like, when are you updating? Blah, blah, blah. And the author's like, you know what? I'm just gonna end the book. Or the author just didn't know how to continue the book and chose to end it instead. That does happen a lot with these kind of writing on demand books. Guilty. But essentially that's what happened. And in my experience using ReAdict, I read 60 something chapters, 69 chapters I think was the book, and they were quite short chapters, which wasn't bad, but I did have a problem with the way it ended. I also don't love that I had to sit through, let's see, since I read this book for like 9 hours to completion, I would have had less time reading it if it hadn't been for the 30-second ads between every single chapter. But I also don't want to pay. But I like that this app at least gives you the ability to read these books for free. You just have to be patient. So if you're not patient to sit through ads, maybe pay. Maybe just pay to unlock all the chapters and you'll be fine. But that does lead into my next chapter of conversation, which is going to be talking about Gality. So if you want to hear me talk about Gality and their reading app, that will be the next video. So if you guys like today's video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I know only 10 of you are going to watch this, but this was really fun. And I will see you all in the next one. Bye!